25 years of loyalty, and they handed me a manila envelope and a fake smile. What would you do if the place you built turned around and erased you? We've decided to restructure the department, Ruth. Today will be your last day. The words landed in the sleek glass conference room like a foul odor, unwelcome, undeniable. I stared at Dominic Hayes, the freshly minted managing partner who'd only been with Franklin and Associates for 8 months. His expression was polished corporate, just the right amount of fake regret blended with professional detachment. I was 58 years old, and just like that, I was no longer the Senior Director of Client Relations, a title I had carried for over 2 decades, ever since the firm was a scrappy outfit with a single floor and 17 clients. This isn't personal, Dominic added, sliding a manila folder across the glossy table. HR has prepared a severance package, 2 months' salary, and continued health benefits through the quarter. Janice from HR sat beside him, nodding without making eye contact. This restructure affects multiple departments, she mumbled. It's not a reflection on your performance. Wasn't it, though? I was the oldest employee in client relations. My salary reflected my experience that had transformed Franklin from a boutique consultancy into one of Boston's premier legal firms. Does Arthur know about this? I asked quietly, referring to Arthur Franklin, the founder who had hired me personally 25 years ago. Dominic's jaw tightened. All partners were consulted, a non-answer. Arthur had been overseas for 3 weeks finalizing our EU expansion. I saw what this was. Best of luck in your future endeavors, Dominic said, smiling without his eyes. Security will escort you to clear your desk, standard protocol. Funny thing, I helped write that protocol 12 years ago. My name is Ruth Pearson, and until 10 minutes ago, I was the architect of Franklin's most valuable asset, its client relationships. In an industry that worshipped billable hours and regarded firms as interchangeable, I made our clients feel seen, trusted, valued. Now I was being tossed out like an old memo from a bygone era. Security stood awkwardly by my office door while I packed a cardboard box. Photos of galas with longtime clients, handwritten thank you notes, the crystal paperweight Arthur gave me for my 20-year anniversary. My phone buzzed. Catherine Winters, CEO of Winters Healthcare, our largest client. Heard troubling rumors at FNA. Our quarterly reviews next week. Call me ASAP. I looked up. Dominic stood in his office already on the phone, probably spinning a narrative softening the blow. But what he didn't understand, what none of them seemed to understand, was that client relationships aren't transferable. You don't just hand someone a name and a login and expect trust to follow. They're built in quiet moments, over years, remembering birthdays, staying calm during crises, picking up the phone at midnight. And they had just severed me from all of it. I joined Franklin and Associates in 1998 when the office was half a floor and Arthur Franklin was a 42-year-old visionary who said, anyone can crunch numbers. Ruth, but not everyone can build trust. So I did. I built trust. While others chased promotions and kissed up to leadership, I focused on what mattered, the clients. I remembered their kids' names, their business cycles, their fears, and now I was disposable. As I walked out of the building, cardboard box in hand, my legacy reduced to paper and glass, I realized something. They didn't destroy me. They just freed me. You don't really feel the fall until you hit the bottom, and even then you're still in free fall. 3 days passed. I sat in my apartment half-dressed in yesterday's blazer, surrounded by job boards and unanswered messages from colleagues suddenly so sorry to hear. My phone buzzed constantly. LinkedIn views spiking, old contacts I hadn't spoken to in years popping up like mushrooms after rain. Everyone loves a fresh scandal, but none of it mattered. Not really. I had been discarded not for failing, but for succeeding too well. For being the legacy Dominic Hayes wanted to erase so he could install his shiny new model. I knew the exact moment I was no longer part of their future. It hadn't been in that sterile conference room. It had been 6 months earlier when meeting invites stopped landing in my inbox, when junior staff were assigned to shadow me, only to quietly take over my client accounts without discussion. Still, I had believed that 25 years of loyalty, performance, and industry respect would protect me. How naive. They called me legacy fat. That was the phrase. I'd overheard Dominic whisper it during a call last week. Her retirement plan will cost us millions, he said, laughing. The restructuring is the perfect opportunity to trim legacy fat. That was me. Fat to be trimmed. Arthur hadn't protected me. The younger partners hadn't stood up for me. I sat in silence, the bitterness thick in my throat, when my landline rang a sound I hadn't heard in months. I almost let it go to voicemail, but the caller ID stopped me. Arthur Franklin, Ruth. He said, his British accent more clipped than usual. I just landed. I just heard. This wasn't authorized by me. I froze. Part of me had hoped. Part of me had feared. Doesn't change anything, I said coolly. Dominic said all partners were consulted. I was deliberately excluded, Arthur said. Voice tight. They waited until I was out of the country. Emergency committee approval. They claimed it was necessary for quarterly projections. 25 years, Arthur. And I got a 10-minute meeting and a security escort. You deserved better. He sounded sincere and exhausted. I want to make it right. I'll bring you back. Say it was a miscommunication. It wasn't I cut him off. Dominic made it very clear. I'm not valuable to them. I'm fat to be trimmed. The silence on his end said it all. He understood the weight of those words. Who's managing my accounts? I asked. He hesitated. Melissa Bennett. I laughed, loud and sharp. Melissa, who nearly lost Winter's healthcare with her pushy tactics and zero emotional intelligence. Good luck, I said dryly. I hung up. Not 30 seconds later, my phone began buzzing again. Not from Arthur, from clients. Douglas from Archer Pharma, Belinda from Summit Financial, the entire Westridge executive team. Word had gotten out. I hadn't contacted a single client. I hadn't said a bad word about Franklin, but clients talk. They sit on boards, attend the same events, whisper behind closed doors, and apparently they were whispering loud. Then the doorbell rang. A courier. Thick envelope. Embossed card. Catherine Goldstein, the most feared and respected headhunter in Boston. Heard what happened at FNA. Several firms would kill for your portfolio. Dinner, I sat back. Dominic thought he cut costs. What he really did was trigger a landslide. They thought they ended my story. What they really did was start a new chapter with me holding the pen. The next morning, my phone rang at exactly 7:38 a.m. Catherine Winters. No greeting, no small talk, just raw executive-level rage. Tell me you're not actually gone. I'm afraid I am, I replied, pouring coffee with one hand. They called it a restructuring. Catherine practically hissed through the phone. Melissa Bennett emailed me yesterday, introduced herself as my new relationship manager. That girl once tried to explain my own business model to me like I was a freshman intern. I'm sure Franklin believes they're acting in the best interest of Ruth. Stop. I'm not a boardroom. I'm your friend. She paused. Where are you going next? I hesitated. I haven't decided yet. We'll decide fast. Our contract's up for renewal in 60 days. If you land somewhere solid, I'd prefer to follow you. It was the kind of declaration that once spoken changes everything. By dinner, I'd gotten 11 similar calls. Major clients without solicitation, expressing not just concern, but commitment. They weren't loyal to a firm. They were loyal to me. That night, I met Catherine Goldstein at a quiet restaurant in Back Bay. She wore Armani carried power in her posture and cut straight to business. You're the talk of the industry right now, she said, sipping a martini. Dominic Hayes made the single most expensive HR mistake in recent memory. Perhaps I said non-committal. She laughed. You're always so damn diplomatic. That's part of your charm. She slid a sleek folder across the table. 3 firms. All want to meet you. 2 are creating roles specifically for you. One's offering equity. I opened the folder and froze. The numbers on those offer sheets nearly double my previous salary. They're not just buying your skill set, Catherine said, reading my stunned silence. They're buying your relationships, that black book of yours, gold. I'd been tossed out of Franklin for being too expensive, and here I was being courted like a Fortune 100 acquisition. The irony wasn't lost on me. The following day, Arthur called again. "I need to see you," he said. "Lunch, Harvest, 1 p.m. There are things you should know." Curiosity got the better of me. Arthur looked haggard when I arrived. His signature calm was gone, replaced by something raw. "Thank you for coming. I almost didn't. I know. Listen, I've tried to fix this, but Dominic's blocking every move I make. He's convinced the board your termination was necessary, and the clients—" Arthur winced, not reacting well. Catherine Winters demanded a full executive meeting. Douglas from Archer is reviewing alternatives. Westridge is soliciting outside proposals. I said nothing, just let it hang. Then he leaned forward. "I'm proposing a new role, Chief Client Officer. You'd report directly to me. Full autonomy, better comp. We'll sideline Dominic." It was everything I once would have wanted, but it felt like bait. I looked at Arthur carefully, past the concern, past the desperation, and there it was, fear. "You're not trying to save me," I said. "You're trying to save yourself." He didn't deny it. "Dominic's consolidating power isn't he," I continued. "If the client revolt escalates, the board will push you out next." He nodded. That was the real game. And I was his bargaining chip. "I already have meetings lined up with other firms," I said, voice calm. "You understand, it's just business. Nothing personal." His face went pale as I tossed his own line back at him. They handed me a manila envelope. I returned with an empire behind me. Over the next week, I met with all 3 firms Catherine Goldstein had recommended. Each conversation followed the same rhythm: effusive praise, careful probing about client loyalty and compensation offers that escalated with each handshake. But one stood out. Blackwell Consulting, not the biggest, but the boldest. A mid-sized firm with values eerily reminiscent of the Franklin I once believed in, client-first, human-led, and built on trust. Their offer included something I had never received at Franklin in 25 years equity partnership. While I reviewed their proposal, news from Franklin trickled in like clockwork. Industry blogs were buzzing: client unrest, executive tension, a mass client exodus underway. My former assistant Thomas texted me updates Catherine Winters walked out of her meeting with Dominic. Furious. Archer Pharma canceled their quarterly review. Westridge is opening bids. That's never happened. And then the call that changed everything. Ruth Pearson, yes. "This is Jeffrey Hammond from the Boston Business Journal. I'm working on a story about the leadership shakeup at Franklin & Associates. Your name keeps coming up. Would you be open to comment?" I froze. This was dangerous. My severance included a non-disparagement clause. I couldn't risk violating it. "I'm not comfortable speaking about internal matters," I said carefully. "Understandable," he replied. Though several sources confirm that 7 major clients have already announced they're terminating their relationships with FNA. The timing aligns with your departure. 7. I hadn't initiated a single conversation, but it didn't matter. Reputation moves faster than email. "I can't speak to client decisions," I replied smoothly. "Every business has many factors to consider." "One last question," Hammond said. "Do you have any comment on the letter signed by 26 of Franklin's clients formally requesting Arthur Franklin remove Dominic Hayes as managing partner? I nearly dropped the phone. 26 clients, a revolt, and I hadn't even lifted a finger." Later that evening, Arthur called again. His voice shook. "Did you organize this?" "No," I said truthfully. "I haven't solicited a single client." "Then how do you explain it?" he demanded. 70% of our client base is threatening to leave. The board is in chaos." Maybe I said coolly, "They care more about relationships than spreadsheets." "This isn't a joke, Ruth." His voice cracked. 25 years of work, this firm could collapse in 25 days. I didn't say anything. Let him feel the weight of his own silence. "I'm asking you come back, not as chief client officer, as full equity partner. Help me stabilize the firm." The words should have thrilled me. For 25 years, that title had been out of reach. Now it was mine for the taking. But it was too late. "I'll think about it," I said. "You'll have my answer in the morning." That night, I didn't sleep. I walked my apartment pacing like a woman preparing for war. Franklin meant familiarity, history, legacy. But it also meant politics, broken systems, and ghosts I no longer owed anything to. Blackwell meant a clean slate, autonomy, purpose, and clients who wanted me. At 6:00 a.m., I made my choice. I called Catherine. "I'm going with Blackwell." "Smart move," she said. "They'll be thrilled." "There's one condition," I added. I laid it out. She listened, then laughed. "Ruthless Ruth, I love it." At 8:45 a.m., I stepped into the same lobby I had been escorted out of just 10 days earlier. The receptionist blinked. "Ms. Pearson." "Are you here for the all hands?" "I am. Arthur's expecting me." The conference room was packed, all partners. Junior staff lined the walls. Whispers filled the air. Arthur stood at the front. The board flanked him. Dominic Hayes was absent. "Thank you all for coming," Arthur began. "As you know, we've experienced client turbulence following recent personnel decisions." He glanced at me. "I'm pleased to announce that Ruth Pearson has agreed to return to Franklin and Associates as a full equity partner leading our new client relations division." Murmurs spread like wildfire. Arthur raised his hand for silence. In addition, the board has unanimously voted to remove Dominic Hayes as managing partner. His strategies no longer align with our values. Then he turned to me. "Ruth, would you like to say a few words?" I stepped forward, heels clicking like a gavel across polished floors. Dozens of faces turned, some hopeful, some wary, all watching. "Thank you, Arthur," I said. "I appreciate the offer." Pause. "But I'm not coming back to Franklin and Associates." Silence, then shock, palpable. "I've accepted a partnership with Blackwell Consulting, which has just finalized a controlling interest acquisition of Franklin and Associates through Horizon Capital." Gasps erupted. Arthur looked like he'd been sucker punched. "The transition begins next week. There are no plans for mass layoffs unless inefficiencies demand it." I locked eyes with him. "It's just business, nothing personal." They thought I wanted revenge. I didn't. I wanted recognition. But what I got was power. The room exploded. Not physically, but emotionally. Board members whispering furiously. Junior staff's eyes darting between Arthur and me like they were watching a corporate car crash in slow motion. Arthur took a shaky step forward. "Ruth." "What have you done?" I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I haven't done anything, Arthur. You did. When you let them cast me out like I was nothing. When you stayed silent instead of stepping in. When you allowed a spreadsheet to outrank 25 years of service." He looked like a man unraveling, and in many ways, he was. "Blackwell's been seeking expansion into Boston for years," I continued. "Horizon Capital held the controlling shares. With client instability and Dominic's mismanagement, they were more than willing to entertain an offer." "You orchestrated this," Arthur said. Voice low. "Not a question." "No," I replied. "I simply recognized my value, something you and Dominic failed to do. That was the truth. I hadn't plotted. I hadn't schemed. I'd merely stepped into a vacuum one they created. And now I wasn't just a partner. I was the face of the firm that consumed its former predator. Within 3 weeks, the rebranding was complete. Blackwell Franklin Consulting, 2 floors in a glass tower downtown, the very building Franklin once dreamed of occupying. And now I had the corner office. I ran integration meetings, finalized client transitions, reviewed compensation packages for staff we retained, and we retained most of them because I understood something Dominic never did. People are assets, not line items. Clients stayed. Staff stayed. Reputation rebuilt faster than anyone predicted. Even Westridge Manufacturing returned. As for Dominic, he landed at a third-tier firm, his reputation scorched by the fire he started. And Arthur, he asked for a meeting 1 week after the deal was finalized. He looked 10 years older. "You control everything now," he said, bitterly sitting across from me in a neutral conference room. "No," I replied. "I influence. There's a difference. One you used to understand." I slid a document across the table. A 3-year consulting position. Advisory only, no management authority. Generous terms, all things considered. He didn't touch it. And if I refuse, Then you walk away with your payout and a legacy you didn't protect. Your call. His fingers hovered over the page. He signed. Slowly. Without a word. 6 months later, Blackwell Franklin Consulting posted a record-breaking quarter. Client retention, 95%. Revenue increase, 23%. Media praise relentless. Even the Boston Business Journal ran a follow-up story Ruth Pearson once discarded as outdated, now helms one of the most trusted firms in New England. I framed that line and placed it next to the crystal paperweight Arthur gave me years ago, not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder, no one defines your worth but you. I didn't burn bridges. I outgrew the road and built my own. My assistant knocked softly. Ms. Winters is here for your lunch meeting. Catherine Winters, elegant as ever, sharp as glass in a velvet glove. She stepped into my corner office, looked around, and gave a low whistle. Well, damn. Then she smiled. Told you they'd come crawling. I laughed. It felt easier now, less guarded. Congratulations on the quarterly numbers, she said, settling into the chair across from my desk. The industry is still whispering about it. Most elegant takeover I've seen in decades. It wasn't a takeover, I said softly, glancing at the city skyline. It was a market correction. We both knew what that meant. The firm had valued infrastructure, protocol, efficiency. They'd forgotten the real asset relationships, and when they severed me, they severed trust. You proved what I always knew, Catherine said as we walked toward the elevator. In professional services, people don't hire firms. They hire people. As we stepped into the elevator, I saw the nameplate outside the main office, Blackwell Franklin Consulting, Ruth Pearson, Partner Client Strategy and Relations. I hadn't asked for that line. They insisted. I had become more than a name. I was the symbol, the reminder, that loyalty isn't blind, that respect must be mutual, that undervaluing someone doesn't erase their worth, only your access to it. I hadn't chased revenge. I hadn't burned them to the ground. I simply stepped aside and let gravity handle the fall. And when the dust settled, I was still standing, stronger, sharper, and in control of my own story. Have you ever been discarded by the very people you built your world around? Did they mistake your silence for weakness? Drop your story in the comments. Let others know they're not alone. And if you're rebuilding, remember this. Sometimes getting thrown out is the first step to being free. Like, subscribe and share if you believe loyalty deserves respect.